the Godhead greater by a human fate. It's quite an extraordinary line. The divine who chooses to become human puts on the burden of humanity and accepts the pain, the sorrow, knowing that man will perhaps not understand, not recognize, and yet this is what the avatar always does. Comes back on earth to show us the way out of darkness towards the light, and therefore he has to enter into the darkness. And we have in us, humanity has an attachment to darkness, to error, to pain. So again and again and again, we push them away. We reject the avatar. We deny, we turn our backs, we forget, we don't care. And yet it is such a strong love that the divine has for man, for earth, that again and again and again, repeatedly, this effort is made by him. It's not an effort, it's a sacrifice. So this is the aspect of the divine avatar and the sacrifice he makes to enter into our human state without losing her divinity, and yet accepting humanity, accepting all the errors and flaws and weaknesses of humanity. Only there is an inner knowledge. And therefore, a dark foreknowledge separated her from all of whom she was the star and stay. Here it's part of the narrative also. She is living in the forest in the hermitage with a group, not just of her family, her husband's family, but a few others. And they had all looked up to her as a being who showed them something by her very nature, by her very presence. There's something luminous in her. This is there in some people. Without having to say it, they become they have a magnetic force, and people turn to them. So all turned to Savitri. She was their guide. Star shows you the way out of the night towards the light. On your journey, you follow your star. Stay is the support, the strength. So this young girl, because she's still very, very young, if you take in the narrative, she had left her house to look for her partner. This could not have happened before she was 18. Her education was completed by 18, then she went out. She found Satyavan. This is 1 year later. So she's still just a young girl. And yet she is the embodiment of the eternal. And she knows what is going to happen. In the story, Narad had come to tell her and her parents that this day returning Satyavan must die. That day has come. But she has not told anyone about it. That also is a kind of strength. You can share your joys. You don't share your pain if you're strong. You keep it to yourself. There's no need for others to go through the pain while you are also going through pain. But few do that. Most of us wail and cry and moan and want sympathy and want kindness. But here is that person who is perfectly aware that what is the use of sharing a burden which anyhow no one can lift, that burden, the burden of death, the burden of pain. No one can take it. So she kept it to herself. And naturally, as a human embodiment, that pain ate her up from inside like a corrosion. She didn't speak about it. as one who, watching over men left blind, takes up the load of an unwitting race, harboring a foe whom with her heart she must feed, unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced, unhelped she must foresee and dread and dare. She is the leader of men in the journey of consciousness from darkness to light. But she's the only one who has the knowledge and the light and the vision. The others, we live from moment to moment, from day to day, unaware of what we are moving towards, whether we are moving towards anything or not. And therefore, we don't suffer from before, because we don't know what is waiting for us ahead of us. So, because men are blind, ignorant, and that's a form of grace. In our weakness, it is better not to know, because we don't have the strength to change the pattern. Whereas she has the knowledge, she is the one who is the guide. So you might say, travelers who are all blind, one person has eyes. So that person who is watching, who has eyes, who has sight, can foresee the difficulties on the path. But we don't know the path, we don't know the difficulties. We live in the present, we are blind to everything else except ourselves. So here again we see the burden that the divine grace, because this is an act of love, and therefore it's the mother, grace, who takes on herself the journey of human progress. We don't even know that we are here to progress. We live in the moment, because we are blind to everything else except ourselves. And that too, we don't even know ourselves properly. So here, she has the vision, and therefore she has also the knowledge of the difficulties waiting on that journey. So she takes up the load of an unwitting race. Unwitting is unwise. Wit is Old English for wisdom. They come from the same root, wit, wisdom. It's not, it's an Anglo-Saxon term. Unwitting is ignorant. Sometimes not to know a problem. It's perhaps not really true when they say ignorance is bliss. It's not perhaps bliss, but it's an absence of pain. When I don't know there's a problem, there is no problem for me. I don't know that I have cancer, so I don't have cancer until I'm told I have cancer. So it gives a certain sense of calm. It's not happiness, perhaps, but it takes away from us the burden that we are here constantly. At every step we are supposed to go forward, we are supposed to progress. If we really have that constantly in us, and at every step there is an obstacle. The obstacle is outside, the obstacle is inside, the difficulties are everywhere. So we live a life of constant warfare with the world and with ourselves. But if we don't even know that there is somewhere to go and something to do, we can be in a state of calm. But she is the one who is battling our life for us. So she takes up the load. She says, Earth is the field of evolution, of change, of growth. It's not to stay on the spot that we have come. We have to move on. But we ourselves don't know that we have to do so. We don't bother to make the effort. She has to do it for us. And it's a very thankless job, because we don't want to change. We often say, why are you troubling us? If you read Mother's talks and she keeps on saying progress, 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 after a while you stop reading. You say, I don't want to hear about these things. Harboring a foe whom with her heart she must feed. What is this foe? Ignorance, death, the ultimate failure is death. Who is the person who will challenge death? She. Whom will death really have to confront? She. So it is as if she, who has come from the infinite and the eternal and has absolutely total freedom from suffering and death, has put on herself the burden of all pain, all suffering. This is the fundamental problem of man. If you have read the Life Divine also, the delight of existence, the problem. We are told we are born from Ananda and the universe lives in Ananda. The problem is that it doesn't seem so. Where is the Ananda? There is always suffering. Who will make us aware that there is suffering, because we don't even realize the depth and the extent of the suffering, and who will show us the way out? Someone who comes into the absolute pit of darkness with us and works her way and leading us from that darkness into light. So she has to take on the burden. She is feeding this foe, because the foe will attack her. The foe is threatened, the enemy is threatened that this being, if she is there, then I will have to leave. Death does not want to leave. It has been there for too long. She has come to challenge. Is it not time for it to leave? Because it has been there so long, it's time that it stopped. That is always Mother's message. Something that has gone on so long, it's gone on too long now, it's enough. But we say this is the way it is, this is the law, these are the ways of the world, so we have to carry on in the same pattern. So nobody is really disturbed so much. They are shocked when an incident of suffering or death happens. It's a moment. But she has to take out from as if the inmost substance of her love and her heart and put it face to face with death, who will attack her. Not really. Death will not dare. That's the whole problem. Death will touch the time-born being, not the eternal being. And here in the story it is Satyavan. He is born out of matter. He is emerging out of inconscience, the soul of the earth. That's what Satyavan is. That is the being death can touch. Death is wise. Death knows he cannot touch her. She is the warrior. She has come to protect the earth soul. But the earth soul has given itself to death for too long. So this is the main issue, this is the main crux of the problem. There is a Christian legend, I think there is a suggestion of that. This legend of the pelican. You know, it's a big water bird with a very long beak. And the beak is like a sword, it's sharp. And the story says that that day the pelican went over all the waters of the earth and found no fish. So what would she feed to her young? But the young, like all human beings, only ask, give, 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 give. I want to eat. I want satisfaction. Please give. So what did she do, the mother bird? With her beak, she cut open her chest, took out her heart and gave it to them. So here you have this image of she gave it to the young ones, who pounced on the heart and ate it without realizing the enormity of the sacrifice. This is a symbolic story, because again and again this is what the avatar does. Gives himself completely. We take advantage, we don't realize how much is done for us. We take advantage of what Mother has done for us, what Sri Aurobindo has done, how they are still doing, but we really don't recognize why they have done it. We are not to stay here the way we were, we are here to change. That is something we have forgotten. So she has in her, this is the image also, it's mystical image of the pelican. So unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced. Because men are blind, they don't know. She is facing the mortality, the doom that mortality has to face. How can she help a person unless she knows the problem? Man's problem is mortality, death. So she has to face that problem. Satyavan has to face death. Otherwise, how can she challenge death? Unhelped, she must foresee and dread and dare the result, outcome of this battle is not told. Whether she will win or not, it has to happen before. Battles have taken place. Battles win either in victory or in defeat. The divine who becomes human may have to face defeat and therefore has to come back again. Who defeats him? Who rejects him? We. Our resistance, our unwillingness, our inconscience, our attachment to the way things are at present. All these things are what comes in the way. We are not willing to collaborate. We have mother's messages, New Year messages, when she says, "Will you help?" How can you help the divine? By collaborating, by not being so unwilling. But we say, "How can I help? You help me, I don't want. How can I help you?" This is how self-centered we are. So, you see, there are passages throughout the poem where he gives us the inner symbolic meaning, and then he takes up the thread of the narrative also, because an epic is a narrative story. So that day, which was the last day of Satyavan, that day has come. The long foreknown and fatal morn was here, bringing a noon that seemed like every noon, because he was supposed to die at noon. She had been preparing herself for this day for a year. This preparation is there because we have the book of yoga. Savitri's book of yoga is book 7. She has been told. She has never known suffering herself. She must know, and she must know how to overcome it. She has to find out who she really is, because she was also a human being. There is the human Savitri. So there is the book 7, where she finds her soul, where she finds the purpose why she has come. Because in her outer nature, which was so beautiful, she had never had any occasion for pain or suffering, because she was the least egoistic person. It's the ego that causes pain. She had never known ego. She had never known pain. But today, she had been told that this day returning, Satyavan must die. That's what Narad had told her. So that day has come. And he would die symbolically at noon. That is to say, time where there is. Can you find a place? It's a meeting of where the darkness is starting. Afternoon, it's the setting that begins. Up to noon, it's the rising that is there. So it's that point where light and darkness meet. Okay. For nature walks upon her mighty way, unheeding when she breaks a soul, life, leaving her slain behind, she travels on. This is the universal pattern. Individuals come, individuals go, the pattern goes on. Yes, man has always suffered, has always died. Life has not stopped. The world does not stop. Wars come, wars go, suffering comes, suffering goes. Nothing. There is a kind of a greater plan. So the individual soul lives within his own circle of experience. There is a universal plan, and the individual may fit into that plan or may not. The plan is there. So we rise, we fall, we live, we die, life goes on. Nothing stops. So there is a kind of a, you might say, I wouldn't say indifference, but nature is undisturbed. The flowers will bloom and still blooming, I suppose, in Ukraine, who knows. They may be passing through, and they are passing through horrible experiences, but still it is summer there. The sky is blue, the flowers are blooming, because there is a kind of a selflessness of a universal force that works no matter what the human experience is going through. So some will survive, some will not. Unheeding, when she breaks a soul, a life, it's as if there's a law. Lives will come, lives will go. People will rise, people will fall. But the plan goes on. Leaving her slain behind, she travels on. So this kind of detached, almost undisturbed attitude of nature. Nature is Prakriti, not nature as we say, the trees and the mountains and the flowers. Nature is the force of change. Nature is evolution. Nature is the field of manifestation. Her work goes on. It cannot stop. Life will rise and fall, beings will come and go, but the play of evolution will go on, it will not stop. Leaving her slain, those who have not managed to be part of the evolution of progress, they fall back because the force of manifestation and evolution goes on. Man only marks, and God's all-seeing eyes. Man has this individual consciousness. He responds with fear, with grief, with difficulties. God, the witness consciousness far above, sees the way the game, for him it's like a game that is played. Often the image of a game Sri Aurobindo uses, the forces are playing a game. Is it a draw? He says that also. It's like an endless draw. The force of light and the force of darkness, they battle with one another. These are the gods, the powers of darkness, the powers of light. They are clashing on the earth field, and there is the spectator above, the Sakshi, the witness consciousness. Is undisturbed because he has the knowledge of the ultimate final stage. When you know the end of a story, you don't get disturbed by what happens in the middle of a story. But when you don't know, you keep on saying, what will happen, what will happen, what will happen. So there is that state of calm, undisturbed consciousness that watches from above. And there is man who is trapped in this moment and is struggling to find a solution for his immediate problem. Nature is a force. Nature just goes on, whether you participate in the evolutionary process or not. You cannot stop the flow of a river or a flood. The river flows. So this is the very nature of Savitri, who is also human. She is going through what the human being goes through. She is suffering as well as some part in her doesn't know suffering. So there are two Savitris, parallel Savitris. Even in this moment of her soul's despair, because it is love, she is the embodiment of love. She has come down on earth for love. Satyavan is the being in whom her love has completely manifested itself. This man is going to go today. Her mind has warned her. This is a moment where in her human nature she would have really broken down. But she is a warrior princess. She is not only a divine being, she is also the greater human being, and that is the sense of one who is not going to give up the battle. The nature, that is why her father also, who is a rishi, who is a wise man, but he is also a kshatriya. He faces difficulties without any kind of complaints, nor does she complain. In its grim rendezvous with death and fear, not that she is unable to fear, but she is not going to express it. That's the first thing. The final, perhaps, victory is when you don't even feel fear. But when you have the feeling of weakness and fear, if you're really weak, it spills out of you. In the form of weeping, in the form of crying, you ask for help. If you're strong, you keep it to yourself. Because you can't change the situation. Why make others suffer? I'm suffering anyway. Why inform the world what I'm going through? That is already, I have not put my vibration of pain and fear in the atmosphere. So there is a certain superiority in the gradation of humanity. She's human, but she's a higher human being. Sri Aurobindo and Mother did not believe in a flat democratic humanity. There is a hierarchy. There are those who are stronger, those who are wiser. They are still human. They have not broken out of the, you might say, subjection to suffering and death. Not yet. But that doesn't mean that weeping and crying will help them to come out of this subjection. It doesn't. When I feel pain, I cry. My neighbor feels pain if that neighbor loves me. And so two people feel pain where one only was feeling. That 2 becomes 10, that 10 can become a nation. Why? Keep it to yourself. But the pain will eat you up from inside. No cry broke from her lips, no call for aid. She told the secret of her woe to none. Calm was her face, and courage kept her mute. This is the quiet strength. Strength and courage are not only something that is expressed outwardly in a most dynamic manner. Strength is also silent, quiet. Yet, only her outward self suffered and strove. So he makes it clear, this is the outer Savitri. The outer Savitri, this human Savitri, is a superior human being, but still a human being. There is another Savitri behind. Even her humanity was half divine. Why had she become a human being? She wanted to share in the human experience. And so, her spirit opened to the spirit in all. The spirit is the consciousness that is slowly making its way, emerging from ignorance to light, from the lesser to the greater. That is the purpose of our existence on earth. She wants to be part of this because in her origin she is not part of it. She is part of the supreme conscious force. The supreme conscious force has come down and accepted to be covered over by unconsciousness. This is what is described as the involution. The divine gets involved in the world of ignorance and pain and slowly makes his or her way out of the darkness. There's a very beautiful sonnet by Sri Aurobindo, if you have read The Pilgrim of the Night. I made an, he says, rendezvous, the same word. I made an assignation with the night. In the abyss was fixed our rendezvous. It's like a love sonnet. In my heart, carrying God's deathless light, I came, her dark and dangerous heart to woo. You see, to win her over. Night is full of resistance. I've come down into the dark. He comes down through the dull slime and all that. There is no guidance, there is no help. And yet I know my footprints' track shall be a pathway towards immortality. This is why he describes himself, his own yoga, his own existence, why he came down, how he entered into the world of darkness, so that they could touch the heart of darkness where is hidden the presence of light. It is very, very hidden, so he has to remove all those layers. It's dangerous. It's like looking for a treasure that is covered over by all kinds of different, or guarded by monsters. They will attack you. You have to win them over to find that treasure. Because there is nothing but the divine. The darkness also is a creation of the divine. But it is dangerous. We lose our way. So here also she has come into the darkness. This is the spirit that is there in all things. Her nature felt all nature as its own. She identified herself. It's not, it wouldn't be, otherwise it would be pointless to say, I am divine, nothing of all this can touch me. I cannot be harmed, I have a circle of protection around me. You all suffer, but I don't suffer. Then why has she come? She must know. That is why now we are reading Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's life and experiences. There's nothing they did not do. They entered into every kind of experience. Whichever experience the human beings went through, they were willing to take part in that. Because it is to discover the possibility of consciousness in everything. But first you have to go through the opposition, the obstruction, the unwillingness. It's everywhere. So her nature felt all nature as its own, aloof, apart, living within all lives she bore. So this is the divine love, grace. Aloof, she carried in herself the world. Her dread was one with the great cosmic dread. The great cosmic dread is the fear of death. That's the fundamental dread. She assumes that also. Her strength was founded on the cosmic mights, but she's going to challenge this. So on the one hand, she feels the pain. On the other hand, she will challenge the pain and not allow it to be victorious. So that's the whole point of the story. An epic is always centered around a battle. And this is the main battle. Not just a theoretic battle between light and darkness, but Savitri and death. It will culminate in book 10. But you see, in an epic you don't start from the beginning of the story. It is anachronistic, so it goes back and forth. So you know this is what is the essence of the issue of the story. Why has she done it? The universal mother's love was hers. That is what a mother is, takes on herself the pain of her children. And so she has taken on the burden of humanity. She is herself above it, but everything. And we throw it on her. It is always the case with every being. We throw our weaknesses on her. Our pain. There's a beautiful flower, her mother called it surrender of falsehood. And she says, give me your falsehood. I can deal with it. Give me your imperfection. But when it touches her, it hurts her. She often, like every avatar, they, like Shiva had the poison in his throat. He took it on himself, knowingly. It's a symbol. Christ had made so many miracles. He had made the blind to see, he had taught, he'd give back life to the dead. Couldn't he have escaped from his crucifixion? He had liberated so many, but not for himself. If he had come to be liberated, he wouldn't have come at all. Or you have the image of Sri Ramakrishna, who had cancer in her throat. This is something that we always forget, that we throw our impurities on the divine. Sri Aurobindo's last days, where he put on, for human, you might say, explanation, a physical, serious ailment, illness. He was not really ill at all. He was not in a coma at all. He spoke a few minutes before he left his body. But he gave that kind of, to man's outward judgment and vision. He said, oh, he was very sick, so he had to leave. This is the attitude, that they accept the human error, the human pain. How else can they liberate us from it? This is the universal love. Against the evil at life's afflicted roots. This is the reason why we die. Like a tree. A tree is often compared to life. And life grows, the tree goes upwards, but the roots go down. Man's roots also go down. Only then can he rise up. He's caught between both these movements. But if the roots become rotten, the tree will fall. And which is where does our, you might say, root go? Into the inconscient. Into the acceptance of saying, I am part of the inconscient. How then can I rise endlessly? I cannot. It has never been attempted before. There have been yogis who said, then give up this earthly life, give up this external body, life, mind. Your soul is free from all darkness, your soul can go back to the origin. This is called moksha, this is mukti. But your body is part of the world of error and ignorance. So this is where man's division takes place. There is a lower nature, there is the ignorance, there is unconsciousness of which we are a part. There is also something in us that wants the light. Now, forever we have to be divided. It is this that is really something that Sri Aurobindo did not agree with. Transform this lower nature. Otherwise, we would always have to reject one half of our nature to go back to the other side. But this transforming is not easy, because it is really something that has existed for so long, so that the very roots of our being, which are made of darkness, of error, of imperfection, they continue to remain that way. Against the evil, life's afflicted roots. Her own calamity, its private sign. In her personal life, this is the indication that she has to face the problem of pain. That is the last canto that Sri Aurobindo rewrote in Savitri, the way of fate and the problem of pain. This is the basic problem of existence. Of her pangs, she made a mystic poignant sword. So this personal suffering becomes the, you might say, opportunity to go through this problem and say, why must there be again and again and again this return to darkness. To cut that thread with a sword, or you have to fight that downward pull, the cords that tie us down have to be cut. Okay? A solitary mind, a worldwide heart. This is what she is. To the lone immortal's unshared work, she rules. This is the role of the avatar.
Jhumur, why here a worldwide heart and a solitary mind?
Solitary mind, yes.
Because she's most
No, because it is only she who has made this decision. This decision that this has to end, not for herself. She is not part of this pattern. She has taken the whole universal problem into herself, so that's the worldwide heart. But she has seen that this has to be challenged. This is the reason why they have done their yoga. What did Mother do at the end? To find out the cause of the failure and death. Because in every cell of the body there is the presence of inconscience. You have to change every cell of the body, which is an enormous task, a struggle. But that and only that can change our destiny. Otherwise the body will have to and is also always falling down. The body is failing, will have to fail. Because the presence of failure is already there. We are born with that. We are born in time. What does it mean? What begins ends. Whatever is born dies. But then why are we called children of immortality? That is the paradox. We call ourselves mortals. Mortals means death-bound, isn't it?